Hello and thank you for joining me again. Today I want to speak to you about tension squares and getting the right gauge for the project that you're about to work on. Before I became a designer, I didn't used to swatch anything, and I'd wonder why my pattern came out different to how it said in the pattern. And then becoming a designer and also pattern testing for other people meant that I realised the value in getting the correct tension for the pattern so that you don't run out of yarn and you get the right ease within the garment or the blanket. It doesn't pucker up. So today I just want to go through a few little techniques that I use which should help you when you are looking at patterns. Tension, okay, it always appears on a pattern, and whether it's knitted or not, it always comes up 30 stitches and 35 rows to 10 centimeters over a Fair Isle pattern, and this one is 4 pattern repeats and 9 rows measure 10 centimeters square over pattern on 4 millimeters. So depending on what you actually are working on will be the difference. It might be just that you have to work a whole square of half trebles if you're in the UK term, or you might need to pattern the row, so that might mean that you've got chains, it might mean that you've got some filet crocheting, some intarsia to do. But I'm just going to talk about it briefly just so that you get an idea of what's expected. If you start your project with a tension square, it will save you from ripping it back, and it will save you a lot of time. It will also save you from running out of yarn, having to buy another yarn. Maybe it's a different dye lot, and then you've got a different colour cuff or sleeve or edge of blanket. So it's always worthwhile to do this. So as you can see here, I've got these handy gauge squares. You can have inches on one side and centimetres on the other. So if you're ever going to do a tension square, make it slightly bigger. I don't know if this one is. It might be a perfect fit. But you take your little swatch. You can do it larger so that you can get a better take on it. And you place the tension square over the top. And this means that you can count how many rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 13 to stitches along. So if our pattern said that it was a half treble crochet all the way through and you needed to get 12 rows, then I'd think, okay, I've got about 13 rows here. Maybe I need to go down slightly, go down a hook, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 stitches. Okay, so it's a 12 row by 20 stitches. I'll go down slightly on my hook size. Okay, you can do this with a tape measure, exactly the same. But I do find these gauge squares really, really handy. And of course, you've got the smaller ones if you need a 5 by 5 square or a 2 by 2 inch. So they're really good. The other thing to note is when I design, especially sort of corner to corner, I would just see the difference in the types of yarn I'm using. So it's okay to substitute, obviously, but you definitely want to substitute a DK for a DK or a 4-ply for a 4-ply. You're definitely going to get different results if you use a thicker or thinner yarn. So for example, this is a 4-ply and this is a DK, both done on a 3.5 millimeter hook. But you can see we're almost a square a whole row actually, difference in the sizing. And then likewise, if I take an Aran or a worsted weight yarn, the same happens again. That one's on a slightly bigger because obviously Aran is a 4mm hook rather than a 3.5, but it all makes all the difference. So when you are beginning your project, you need to look carefully at the type of yarn, the makeup of the yarn as well, and also whether or not your tension is going to match. And although you might be thinking, oh, but I've been crocheting for years, there's nothing wrong with it, when it comes to a specific pattern, especially things like cushion covers, and garments, and blankets even, because you can run out of yarn on a blanket if your tension is too loose. There's nothing wrong with going from a 4mm hook maybe down to a 3.75, and then if you have to, a 3.5, and just go down in small increments, because it might be that it only takes a small millimeter worth of difference for you to get the correct tension. Now, in my experience as a designer, I have had people comment and say, you know, the company hasn't sent me out enough yarn, I've run out too quickly, there weren't enough balls. You really need to check your tension. It might be spot on, it might be an error in the pattern, but you have to check your tension. I mean, a little square like this would take you all of, I don't know, 20 minutes. And 20 minutes is a lot less than ripping back a whole project or half a project because your tension's too loose or your tension's too tight. Again, if your tension's too tight, you go up a hook. So you might start at 4 and your tension's too tight, so therefore you go to a 4.25mm, a 4.5mm, and you carry on until you get that perfect tension. I hope this has helped you just in terms of going forward with your projects. It's definitely helped me. It's something that I always do now, and I don't take it for granted. If a pattern says there's a gauge there for a reason. So I hope that this has helped you out. Thank you for watching.